balancing work, study, and the shift from theory to application. Hi there, I'm Jonathan, and this is the start of part one, the what, my experience. So if I had to describe my experience during strategic management module in one word, it would be transitional. So I've been working full time since July last year, and managing university responsibilities alongside a full time job has been one of the toughest challenges I have faced recently and academically. My work hours often overlap with lecture times, which means I've had to miss certain classes or catch up later in the evenings. At first, I underestimated how much this would affect my learning, not only in terms of time management, but also in terms of mental focus. So when I started this module, I quickly realized that strategic management wasn't like most of the other subjects. Many previous modules focused heavily on memorization, where you need to remember certain models, theories, and definitions for tests. But this one was different. It demanded something deeper. It demanded our understanding with how to apply theory to real-world strategic decisions. And it required us to completely understand the module and the content, and not just memorize it, but be able to apply it into the exams and the tests. So that shift from learning the theory in isolation to applying it in context required me to completely change how I studied. At first, I resisted that change. I kept trying to approach the module the same way I did with the others, revising my PowerPoint slides, memorizing the frameworks and the theories and everything, and just hoping that that would be enough. But when it came to the assignments and tests, I realized that approach was just not working anymore. This module expected me to think like a strategist and not just a student. So I had to connect models like Porter's 5 forces or even the SWOT analysis to real companies and explain how the decisions affect long-term sustainability. And I even remember in my first class in this module realizing that, oh, I had the completely wrong idea of strategic management. I thought this was going to be a theory module, and here we need to create a mission statement, and it's completely application where we had to memorize. The only things we had to memorize was the main keywords, right? And that was basically it. So, that's when I felt the resistance. Not from anyone else, but directly from myself. I was stuck in an old pattern of studying, one that didn't fit the expectations of this module. And then working full-time made it even harder to adapt. And by the time I got home from work, I was often mentally drained. And the easy option would have been to keep doing what I knew, which was just my learning. But I realized that if I didn't adapt, I'd fall behind not only in the module, but also in preparing for the kind of strategic thinking that my career would demand. So I started changing my approach. Instead of just memorizing the notes, I began relating every theory to my actual work environment, which helped me so much. For example, when learning about competitive advantage, I thought about how my company differentiates itself in the market. And I actually even use this when talking to clients to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. So when studying the corporate level strategy, I analyzed how our management structures all their decisions in our business as well. And this is also how it helped me just get a better perspective of everything. And then sort of applying the theory that I learned into my own work environment, and knowing my work environment really well just helped me understand everything properly. So in a way, the resistance that I faced, the fatigue, the scheduling, conflicts with the classes, and the confusion, it all became opportunities to integrate my work and study life together. But it didn't happen instantly. Obviously, it took some time, it took patience and errors, and eventually I needed to change my mindset to truly embrace the change. Part 2, the so what. So looking back, this experience fundamentally changed how I approached learning and personal development. So balancing a full-time job with university studies has forced me to master discipline, time management, and adaptability. I learned to plan ahead, using weekends and early mornings to study strategically instead of reactively. So normally I would just study either a few days before the test and things like that. Now I had to start studying way beforehand when I had free time after my work hours. But beyond just scheduling, I learned the value of mental adaptability. The truth is, I couldn't always control my work hours or how tired I feel after a long day of work, but I could control my attitude. That mindset shift was crucial. So instead of just seeing all the challenges as obstacles, I started to see them as training grounds for resilience. And every time I managed to attend a lecture despite being exhausted and tired, I applied the theory to my real business case. And it helped me feel myself growing stronger, not just as a student, but as a professional as well in my work field. So, overall, this module has developed several key skills that I didn't expect to gain during this whole module. Some of these skills are problem solving, because I constantly had to figure out how to bridge theory with practice in limited time. And then I also learned adaptability because the module's learning style was just different from what I was used to. So I really had to learn how to adapt properly to this module. And I've had many other modules that required me to adapt, but yes, this was also a very, very difficult one. Thirdly, I also learned communication because, especially when collaborating with my classmates while managing my work schedule, I needed to ask them, obviously, like what's going on in class and things like that. And then, most importantly, was self awareness. This is recognizing when my own mindset was holding me back. So, another big takeaway was the importance of emotional intelligence. There were moments where I felt guilty for not giving enough time to either work or studies, and it was easy for me to feel overwhelmed. Learning to manage these emotions, like staying calm and keeping my perspective, helped me to maintain a balance for this module specifically. And feedback also played a huge role for me. So hearing from my classmates, as I mentioned, who were going through similar struggles, and also who were going through the class itself, also helped me just share all the things that I might have been missing, important deadlines, and just overall their input for me really helped me adapt. And their insights gave me the practical ways to approach the assignment and to focus on understanding and not just memorizing for the test as well. And we actually formed groups that I helped lead for all of our modules. Actually, all of the modules that I have with various different students, we created different groups on WhatsApp where we would send study notes and study materials and just help each other to pass the modules. And this isn't just for this module, this is actually for all the modules that I have. So overcoming this resistance to this change in this module wasn't only about adjusting to how I study, it was also becoming more flexible, resilient, and let's say self-driven as well. I learned that growth often happens outside of my comfort zones, and this experience made the truth very real for me. Getting to the last part 3, the now what. So, as I prepare for my future career, this experience has become one of my most valuable lessons. So, in any workplace, change is constant, whether it's a new system, new leadership, or a complete strategic shift. So, there will always be resistance. And now I understand it's normal. And what matters most is how I respond to that. So, in this module, it taught me that success isn't just about knowing the strategy, it's about living strategically. Being able to adapt, problem solve, and even stay grounded when things shift unexpectedly. So, in my career, I plan to handle changes like this by doing these 3 key things that I wrote down. Firstly, to stay curious. So, instead of resisting new approaches, I'll explore them with an open mind, trying to figure out how to solve the problem. And secondly, I'll stay proactive by identifying where change is needed before it becomes urgent. And then lastly, it's to stay resilient. So by balancing logic with emotional awareness, so I can lead myself and others through transitions effectively. This would help me just to overall move through any problems or changes that happen throughout my career. So the discipline and adaptability that I've built from balancing full-time work and studies, these qualities I'll carry forward into every role I take on moving forward. And now when I face workplace challenges, whether it's adapting to a new project or learning a new system, or my boss just threw something random on my desk and said, figure it out, I know that I can handle it. So I've practiced this resilience through real experience and not just through theory, just like the module itself. Applying things more than just relating to theory. So ultimately, this module helped me realize that learning and working on separate worlds, they're two sides of the same coin. And what I learn in class shapes how I perform at the work. And while my work experience at work deepens how I understand the theory, it still requires me to apply these concepts. So I've learned that growth doesn't just happen in perfect balance, it happens in motion between adaptation and persistence and trying to figure out a solution to a problem. So as I move forward, I'll keep embracing change as a natural part of the progress, both professionally and personally. Because if there's one thing this experience taught me, it's that resistance isn't a barrier to success, it's the first step towards it.